Is it possible to consider Solo a Star Wars story one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, regardless of what it earned? The answer is yes. I think if you hang out with me for just a little bit, I can explain why I do think Solo truly is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, as well as one that deserves a sequel. It's a shame that the financial turnout of the movie is now dictating something it shouldn't even be a victim of. But with that said, let's dive into Solo again, because I have a lot to talk about, from what went on behind the scenes all the way to what we saw in front of the camera. So buckle up and let's go. Solo is encapsulated in drama. The original directors fired. Alden Ehrenreich, people thought he didn't look enough like Han Solo, and therefore literally made fun of his appearance. Lando Calrissian was going to be a pansexual, which caused a lot of fans to become hypercritical of sexual representation in Star Wars. Although these same people are okay with humans and aliens boinking in the EU. If it happens in a movie, it's SJW woke politics. Now, after all this non-stop negativity over a film that had yet to release, Lucasfilm dropped the trailer only 90 days from release, which, to me, was absolutely dumb. The trailers looked great, people responded really well, but 90 days is not enough time to get invested. For a film with so much bad press before release, this marketing move literally baffles me, but it happened. The final, most absurd aspect to Solo's drama and failure financially, people upset with The Last Jedi decided to organize a boycott on all future installments out of Lucasfilm, until the president, a woman, stepped down from her position because it didn't meet their expectations. It was petty without a doubt. I do not believe that it created a dent large enough to cause absolute failure. However, I think it factored in a little bit. And the ironic part, ever since Solo released on streaming a while back, I constantly hear and see, wow, Solo is actually good. Wish I saw it in theaters. When it was all said and done, Solo made $393 million on a film that cost $400 million between production and promotion. DVD sales ranged around $54 million, which is the silver lining, but no matter how we slice it, even if we love the film, it didn't make enough of that Star Wars money. And that's a shame considering how good this film ended up being. So after all this, I finally went to go see the movie. I saw it alone. I have a son now who is about 15 months old, and my wife was cool with me seeing it opening night. And I wanted that opening night energy going in, if you understand what I mean. And I'm gonna admit something here. I smoked a little bit of the devil's lettuce before I walked into the theater, and perhaps this factors in to why a lot of this film rocked my goddamn socks off. I'd say it definitely enhanced the color palette of this film for me. The deep blues and the underground were very intense. Regardless, the whole film kicked in and I remember thinking to myself, I can't believe this intro is this good. I can't believe that simple ass title sequence in the beginning gave me chills. I couldn't believe how real and huge this movie felt. I've said this before, Solo is almost like a forgotten 80s film. I mean that in the best way imaginable. Slummy, underground, retro future street racer kid lives on portions of food provided by intergalactic space slug, only to end up stealing a precious and very explosive commodity, which he thinks will earn him and his girl freedom. In one of the most exciting Spielbergian space chases, this couple evades a velociraptor that has microwaved dogs for pets. This movie was insane. The aliens were like the Dark Crystal on DMT. I'm not bullshitting. When Lady Proxima emerged from that pool, I thought about how proud Jim Henson would be that this was currently happening back on the big screen. At least in that disturbing creature from the old 80s movie that made you lose sleep for a few years kind of way. And for me, the performances, besides me always thinking like, oh, it's Woody Harrelson in Star Wars, they were all great. I didn't care that Han Solo was being portrayed by Alden Ehrenreich. Alden Ehrenreich is Han Solo. So was Harrison Ford. They both kicked ass in the roles. There is one minor nitpick I have in this film's casting. I think Val's character was good in Solo, but I would not have casted someone as good as Thandie Newton for such a small amount of screen time. Now, I'm not in the camp that believes this was an egregious story error for Val's character, but it was a shame to see Thandie Newton leave the film so early because I'm such a huge fan of Westworld and a huge fan of her work. I have to say I'm not sure if it's just the costume designs, those Mad Max vibes, the voice, or what, but Enfys Nest and her gang were unexpectedly fresh and mesmerizing. To find out that Enfys Nest is essentially the mother of the rebellion blew my goddamn mind. She is the seed. And the icing on the cake with the character is the poem on her helmet. Now, I mocked it up here in the blue font for nostalgic purposes. John Powell is something else. I remember every motif from this movie the way I remember all the motifs from E.T. or Indiana Jones. For this dude to take John Williams' composition of The Adventures of Han and then extrapolate it into this giant array of other pieces of music is bonkers. Also, slow jam space Muppets. Here's a fun fact. This mountain right here, it's CGI, but this explosion is actually water. Neat. Bradford Young was the cinematographer on Solo. You might remember that name because of the film Arrival. This guy made it look like everything truly existed in front of the camera. I feel like if there's one thing all Star Wars fans across the board in general can agree on about this film is that it's gorgeous. If you want a digital version of the movie that you can play on your computer and you have easy access to pausing by just clicking your mouse, I suggest you do it just to see how well composed about every frame in this movie is. It's unbelievable. I believe I read that Lord Miller made the rule that no matter what, Solo had to look like it could have been shot on gear from the 70s and 80s. Although they got let go, it seems to have carried over into Howard's approach as well. Most of the creatures in this film are practical. Most of the sets are real. Of course, there are set extensions, but a lot of what we do see actually happened in front of the lens. Now that's really fun for a person like me who thinks one of the best aspects of Star Wars are the puppets and the people in suits doing weird shit. But the point is, the creators of Solo went out of their way to use practical effects when they could, and it paid off. You know the MacGuffin coaxium? Well, that's a very clever practical effect. What coaxium really is ferrofluid. Ferrofluid is a magnetic liquid created by NASA, and what they ended up doing was putting this liquid into tiny little glass vials with magnets at both ends. They added what looks like LEDs and a bit of post-production glow, and boom, Star Wars fuel, but shot on location. I think that's amazing. I feel like at this point, I have been rambling on about things we mostly probably have heard or know about, but all I'm getting at is Solo is a very good Star Wars spin-off, considering it essentially did not have to recreate or expand the mythos of Star Wars at all. It was the perfect little bundled story stuffed with Star Wars aesthetic in such a way that it's as if the film crew filmed on those planets, and the way this movie ends left open so many exciting possibilities to be explored. It felt like the next film would revolve around Han with the Hutts and some sort of future run-in with Crimson Dawn, probably back to collect debts. With the Cloud Riders sort of on good terms with Han Solo, the follow-up could have been a very interesting film with all of these groups at odds. Of course, I would absolutely watch a TV series about this if that's what ended up happening because of the box office, but like I said, this film deserves a follow-up, even with its financial blunder. The DVD sales were pretty close to Rogue One, and that's getting a spin-off, so who knows? But that's what I gotta say about Solo. Give us a sequel. Give us a follow-up. A lot of people want to see it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Leave a comment down below on what you would want to see if there was a follow-up on Solo. And if you didn't like Solo, totally cool. Leave a comment as to why. And as always, may the Force be with you, and the atatchat is signing off.